Oh, it was joyful, merry, full of just a beautiful Saturday. Just a beautiful Saturday. Yesterday was nice too, but different there in terms of how it was nice. And 51-7, and relaxing. It was 20-0 right off the bat. Offense looked like the greatest show on turf and the Rams. Oh, it was so great. I feel good. Everything's fixed.
Well, I don't know about everything, but at least for Saturday, you could sit back and enjoy, relax a little bit, weren't on pins and needles, weren't have to worry about a collapse or anything along those lines. And I've said this already.
Don't say that part. That actually was.
By halftime, I felt like they were in a comfortable enough spot where Coastal wasn't going to come back and win the game. You know what I mean? Like, they were okay. But at least for Saturday and today as well that we're reacting to it, you feel good knowing they won. Because, again, it had been 2 months.
Right.
September 27th was the last time that South Carolina had won a game, and that win against Kentucky. Lots transpired since then. Our attitudes towards this team have changed a lot since then. So regardless of if it's the number one team in the country, an FCS team, a group of 5 team, or a high school, you won a game. And for at least that, you feel good.
So we'll break it all up today and try to decipher what exactly it meant. Did it mean anything? And there's a lot to take away from it as we will put the bow, obviously with Clemson week, we'll put the bow on the Coastal Carolina game here in hour 1, transition to the Clemson game in hour 2, and then Jamie Bradford will join us in hour 3. I do think there are things to discuss from this game. Such as, and some of it pertains to the Clemson game, some of it pertains to the Clemson game, and some of it pertains to your emotional feelings. Like, did Saturday mean anything? Or was it just 60 football minutes and 4 hours of relaxation and relief? And if you were watching it, if you weren't at a pumpkin patch or a Christmas tree farm or a corn maze or whatever, do you take anything away that you'll go, okay, I feel better about this week? I think that's number one. Number two, is Mike Furry back in the discussion? Did Mike Furry work his way back into the discussion? We now, wait a minute. Maybe this Mike Furry needs a very significant look at the offense coordinator job. I think that's number two. Number three, is Jaden Sellers a weapon? Is Jaden Sellers a legitimate, option one weapon? You know, is that something that gives you hope for this coming weekend? It's one game. It's Coastal Carolina. Let's not get carried away. Coastal is missing their quarterback. But I do ask you those questions of, you have now seen South Carolina's offense for 8 quarters. 6 looked better.
Yeah.
One against a preeminent defense for 2 quarters, one against a bad defense for 4 quarters. And it would have looked even better if you did not switch to some backup quarterbacks. And thank goodness we got to see those guys.
Sure, value in that.
Jarwan Howell made his debut. I think he came off of some kind of odd suspension that we were completely untold of. That's the only thing I can come up with.
Sure, yeah. The handling of Howell throughout the season has been odd. And I don't know if Sheila just didn't like what he brought to the offense, only used him limitedly, but when he gets touches, he tends to make a lot out of those opportunities, and he did that again on Saturday.
His stat line's odd, by the way, because Austin and I were watching the game late in the game, and you look down, and it's late. I think he'd been pulled by this point. He only had 3 carries for 18 yards.
Yep.
That's because also he kept running the ball for 20-yard carries, and they called back for holding calls. But there's a fine line, a very fine line in saying, I liked what I saw. I can take this away. I can believe this now for the Clemson game. Here's where I have a little faith, and a fine line in going, yeah, that Coastal team, I don't know if they were mentally into it after the first 20 minutes. They were missing their quarterback. They've got bigger fish to fry. And they also just kind of realized, yeah, we might want to just wave the white flag on this one and move.
It's a game that you can't draw any conclusions from.
Okay.
Right? It's like you can feel, and look, considering what the offense was under Mike Shula, you put up 579 yards of offense, scored 51 points, two things that Mike Shula never came close to doing in his entire tenure here as South Carolina's offensive coordinator. So that is a positive. And again, he struggled to make yards and get points against South Carolina State a little bit earlier on the season. So you can feel good about that. I don't think that performance, hands Mike Furry the job by any means. He's certainly still in the discussion, as Beamer said he would be, when asked about it. And if he can go out there and replicate that against Clemson this weekend, then I think thinks he makes a stronger case for himself. But I'm not ready to draw any sort of conclusions, certainly not about Furry as the offensive coordinator based on what you did against Coastal team that, again, down their starting quarterback, not great on defense anyway going into it. But, hey, there is value in knowing you went out there and did your job. And that's something that we've talked about a lot, especially for a team like South Carolina that didn't technically have anything to play for. And that was our worry going in. It's like, hey, this is the first time they're going in without at least trying to get themselves to bowl eligibility. How are they going to look? Are they going to be flat? They're going to be uninterested? Whatever. They came out strong, jumped on them quick, kind of crushed their spirits, and cruised to a pretty comfortable victory. So there's value in that. But again, it's not the end-all be-all of anything, unfortunately.
And then, there is the flip side where you can't look, it's very easy to say it meant nothing. And I'm not going to tell anybody who says that they're wrong. It is a true eye of the beholder situation on how you want to view this. And if you're so jaded and upset from the season that you want to say, hey, it was Coastal and it meant nothing, I'm not going to tell you that because you also just mentioned, now we now know things to be entirely different as it pertains to LSU, right? But it was the first time in 5 games South Carolina did not play a top 15 team.
Right.
And there should also be, it should be stated, there is a fine line between playing a decent football team and playing 5 consecutive top 15 football teams, right? Now, again, we know LSU is not one of those teams anymore. Oklahoma is, Alabama is, Mississippi is, Texas A&M is. But there's a fine line in playing, and I'm just going to throw out an arbitrary Duke, and then playing the other 5 teams that you played, and then playing a Coastal. So you do take that into account, but if you're upset, if you're jaded, and you listen and you're like, that game meant nothing, it's Coastal, I'm also not going to argue with you. And that's why I ask how you come in here today and use that game to assess anything, not about the season.
Sure.
You can't do that for the season. The season's done. The season is over. There's one game left. But how do you use it to maybe assess, hey, I like what I saw that now could be used on Saturday against Clemson?
Yeah, there are small little things. Some of the things that Mike Furry did as far as offensive play calling, the guys that he was utilizing, what you saw to the young receivers, there are small little things to say, okay, that can have a carryover to this game against Clemson that hopefully helps you get a victory in that. Again, we're talking about the 11th game of the season where we already knew what this team was. If you go out there and have that exact same performance in week number 2 against, let's say, SC State, then we're talking about, okay, that's something you build off of, promise out of this guy, promise out of that guy, that carries over into a longer runway of what the upcoming games are. You got one more game after this. We know what this team is. Again, you're stepping back up in competition level, taking on a Clemson team that isn't as good as we thought they were going to be going into this game. Remember, in the offseason, we thought this could be like the biggest Palmetto Bowl ever based on stakes and where the quarterbacks were going to be and all this kind of stuff. None of that is going to be happening this upcoming weekend, but it's still a rivalry. That still matters at the end of the day to be able to at least go into the offseason, even though you're not going to go to a bowl game, saying, hey, we beat Clemson, and that's something you can at least feel good about for the next calendar year.
Yeah. So, again, I'm not going to tell anybody that says, hey, look, it's Coastal and I take nothing away the previous 10 games or what. I get it. I'm not saying it. I do wonder if the play calling, if some of the things that happened, you go, okay. Because, again, there's so many little fine lines in which you can either, again, just shrug it off and say it's irrelevant, or you can be glass half full and say, I like that. And that's, well, out of the last 8 quarters with Mike Furry calling the play, 6 looked competent.
Yep.
which I hate to say we had not seen for a very, very long time. So maybe our bar is set so freaking low that competence all of a sudden goes around here for absolute success.
It shows you how, trying to find the right word, how down the fan base is on the offense when you're looking at that and having to try and glean so much from it in a game that in years past you wouldn't really, okay, you put up near 600 yards of offense against Coastal.
Spurrier in these games,
whatever.
You just went, whatever.
Yeah, it's like, that's what you're supposed to. But this was like, oh, my God, that's the best they've looked in a year, which it's true. And I had the stat on Saturday. That was the first time in a calendar year that the offense has scored over 25 points because you put up, 50-something against Wofford last year. And then after that, 17 against Clemson, 17 in the bowl game, and, of course, none over 23 in the prior, 10 games this year.
So, we'll debate. That's what I want to know here in hour one. We're not going to stick on this Coastal Carolina game long because there's some team from the upstate that is coming down here on Saturday. I couldn't believe it. Dabo said the most reasonable, smartest thing he's ever said today. We'll tell you about that, too. Actually, I think they might have the audio clip, and we'll pull that because it's there is no doubt, and again, we'll get to this in hour two. There is a different vibe about this game. For me, it's nostalgic. I feel like it's 98, 97 all over again.
Yeah.
There's a nostalgia taking Austin on Saturday. See what your dad grew up with? This is what Carolina Clemson was in the 90s.
Will it make him appreciate the high-profile matchups more?
It truly made me and maybe that'll make all of us when we actually do this.
Sometimes, eating ramen can make you appreciate a nice steak.
Yeah, so we won't spend a lot of time on Coastal. But I do think the two things are, and to me, an 803-404-6100, you can hit us up phone lines and or via text. Is there anything you take away? And then the second part, because I saw this a lot Saturday afternoon, I'll give my opinion on it when we come back. Did you now go, wait a minute, Mike Furry should be, I'm not saying he's got to be the top guy, but what I'll throw is top three? Are you willing to put him in the top three?
See, I don't know who the other candidates are, though. That's hard to say.
I'll give you two others. Okay. I'll give you two others, and nobody knows who the candidates are. I think we know one. I do true, and I don't mean Mike Furry. I think we know two.
Okay.
I think we know two, but we'll get to that. But I do question. Do you go now? Okay, I'll give Mike Furry consideration to move him into top three after what you saw Saturday. Will mean a lot, but we're not there yet, so we can't have that discussion. 803-404-6100. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, producer Ed Bird. You're listening to the Halftime Show. It is feast week, rivalry week. It is Thanksgiving week. I put on Twitter just a little while ago. Big news. Second to big news. Big news last week was my health update on Twitter and Facebook. Big news. Gunner family has made a change. I have made a change. Gunner family doesn't get a decision. I have made a change.
Okay.
We have decommitted from the cranberry barbecue sauce that we were going to use to glaze the turkey. I'd been committed to this for a while.
All right.
Quite some time. Kind of like a Maury Thomas, I guess, if you will. He flip-flopped back and forth. I'm not like him at all. Went yesterday out up into the mountains, went and got a real Christmas tree, pulled the Clark Griswold, went up. That was I was just telling you in the break. Fun experience. Great experience. A lot of fun. And went to a place called Jeter Mountain Farms in Hendersonville, I believe. It's right there on the line of Hendersonville. And they have a apple butter barbecue sauce.
Okay. You have my attention.
Uh-huh. Apple butter. So the Gunner family, me, decommitted this morning from cranberry barbecue sauce this year to baste/glaze the smoked turkey with a apple butter barbecue sauce on Thursday.
Now, did you properly thank the coaches with cranberry barbecue sauce for...
I didn't. I don't love Twitter enough to...
Do we have to respect your decision?
I put some interviews allowed and respect my decision.
Okay.
And then because apparently my personal Twitter account, or my actually personal iPhone, loves to play games, I did put Team Apple Butter.
Okay.
But Thanksgiving.
Now, are the fans of cranberry barbecue sauce going to trash you on the message boards now?
Pretty sure.
Because you weren't a fit for them anyway.
Yeah.
They didn't want you anyway. You're going to be
sold out, took the bag.
You're sold out. You took the bag. You're going to go and you're going to flame out at Apple Butter State University. They're going to pray for your downfall, essentially.
Yeah, they don't want my kind anyway.
Exactly. You weren't a fit for the program.
No.
You
I got an attitude problem.
You got an attitude problem. Listen, this is when they start hearing things, right? Well, I heard that Gunner guy was a problem in the locker room.
Yeah.
He's a me kind of guy. Like, he just wouldn't fit here at
Beg for a discount.
Yeah, at Cranberry Barbecue Tech, he just wouldn't fit.
Yeah.
We're only half kidding about these things because that's how.
I've seen it.
That's how the decommitments are treated a lot of the times.
South Carolina does lose.
I heard from my cousin's best friend's nephew's uncle that he saw him on the sidelines of one of his Hot Friday games, and this kid just isn't a team guy.
I will say real quick, tell the story. This was still one of the funniest ones. John Whittle was with me, and we went to, I believe, just north of Rockingham, North Carolina, circa 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. Okay, Spurrier was coaching. And I just, because I went through recruiting and because I know a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff, both scandalous that I probably could write a book, to be honest. But this one's not as scandalous, but this one's actually it just goes to show you how recruiting goes, right? And it was a defensive end, I believe a 4-star defensive end. He was him and an offensive lineman. We were going to interview both. We went to the school. I believe the lineman went to Clemson. If I remember correctly. And the offensive lineman went to Clemson, and the defensive lineman was committed to Tennessee, but there had been rumors he was going to flip to South Carolina. South Carolina put in a lot of work, and Brad Lawing was going to get him, and oh my goodness, this was going to be a big flip. Gamecocks were going to get him. I literally cannot remember his name. I know he was kind of skinny, but South Carolina put in all the work. They were going to get him. We get up there, we do the interview. We do the interview with him, and Whittle interviewed the offensive lineman. And I interviewed the defensive guy, and he's kind of going, well, it's got a big decision, and I need to decide on my future and what's best for me and, my family. He's going on, and he's giving you all the right answers, right?
Sure.
He's telling you all the things.
With the book of cliches when talking about somebody in your recruiting process.
With my recorder to his lips, he's giving me all the answers I need. And we're standing around, so we end the interview, and we're standing around, and we're kind of shooting the bleep with him and kind of hanging out. And the offensive lineman looks at him and goes, I thought you were completely going to Tennessee. That's what you said like 2 weeks ago. And he goes, man, the defensive end, God, I can't remember his name. I have to go back and look. The defensive end, he never made it at South Carolina. And when I tell you the story, you're going to be like, okay, well, that makes sense. He enrolled, but I don't think he even lasted a year.
Okay.
He goes, man, and it was his girlfriend in high school at the time. He goes, she's pregnant. They won't. Tennessee's too far. They're making me go to South Carolina.
Okay.
And you hear it's like us having a conversation.
Sure.
And you're like, well, I can't report that.
Right.
But that's how some of this stuff goes. And I can't remember his name. I have to go back and look. But yeah, he came to South Carolina because did want to come. It was just
that's always great.
It was just his two final. It was the two options he considered at the very end. And Tennessee was considered. And I want to say Tennessee was like 5 hours, and Columbia was 3. It wasn't like
Sure.
It wasn't like a plane flight to somewhere.
But, that time adds up over time, I guess.
But anyway, so of course when he did flip like a week later. We had the interview and everything. And everybody was like, wow, what a job. What a job. This is how you recruit. And of course, Tennessee fans, like, they paid him. And I was like,
not quite.
It's not quite how it worked. 803-404-6100. Wesley weighs in on the Twitter machine. I don't know if you can judge Furry yet or not, but I do think Beamer won't win any fans back that he lost by promoting him, and he won't lose any fans by not hiring him.
Yeah, and look, Furry seems to be relatively well liked by the entire fan base, and he's done better than Shula had done in the 8 quarters of football that we've watched so far. So yeah, I don't think it is like, I don't think people would hate the hire, but I don't think it gets people as juiced as going out and getting somebody that has as more of a proven track record as a full-time power forward or offensive coordinator or whatever.
But I don't know who that guy is, because I've read the message boards and I've read Twitter, and everybody has their own guy, right? Everybody has their own kind of guy. And let's go to some of these text messages here. Joey says no on Furry because he is not a quarterback coach. Does that matter? And I only say does that matter because then go hire a quarterback coach. He wouldn't be the first guy even close. I mean, it's not as commonplace, but he wouldn't be the first guy who's the offensive coordinator, but not the quarterback coach.
Yeah.
So now go hire a legitimate quarterback coach.
Yeah, and that's possible. Again, on the reporting, it sounds like Beamer wants somebody that's kind of rolled into one that has a history of developing quarterbacks. But if you feel really confident enough in Furry and you can go out and get, and this, again, a lot of this goes back to who you can get to come in here, because there's a lot of open competition with how many head coaching jobs and staffs are being open as of right now. If you can get somebody that you feel like is a good enough quarterbacks coach to develop Sellers or whoever's playing quarterback for you next year where you need them to, then maybe feel more comfortable doing that. There's a lot of variables at play here when it comes to who you're going to ultimately decide to hire. Again, I still think it's going to be an outside hire, but hey, if Furry goes out there and they score 40 points and put up 450 yards on Clemson, you make a stronger case once again. No,
certainly Saturday is another resume builder for him. Leonard weighs in, and at times this is kind of how I feel. Leonard says, the more I think about it, Furry should be given the OC job. Look at his resume. Dude played as wide receiver in the NFL, plus he has 0 ties to the state. Worst case scenario is that they struggle next year and he moves on. And that last part's what I agree with.
Yeah, but again, it's like if he does struggle, that's potentially Beamer's job on the line too. So that's why you got to
get this hire right. That's not on Furry. I know what you're saying.
That is on Beamer, and that again goes back to why I think so many of us believe it to be an outside hire, because it's like you've done the in-house thing already. It backfired on you. As good as Furry's looking right now in some respects, you don't know how that plays out over the course of an entire season, and I don't know if you take that risk or not.
Justin weighed in and said on our text line, 803-404-6100, the last 2 games have showed that Carolina has all the talent to compete. However, I can't offer Mike Furry the job because he sat in the room all year long and never raised a voice loud enough to make a change that could have put us at 8 or 9 wins, not 4. We got to hit a break.
I want to expand on that on the other side.
Yeah. We don't know what voice he would have had, but we'll expand on that. I'll get to some more text messages, some cranberry sauce discussion as well. You're listening, cranberry and apple butter barbecue sauce for your turkey. We got a lot to do, and it's a Monday. Y'all having a good day? I am. Happy Monday. 12:35 on a Monday. Just for your records, just so you know, today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, Tyler and I will get you through the days. Thursday, we're going to take off, spend time with the family.
That's right.
Do some delicious turkey, do some sides. Oh, we will have food discussion this week.
Oh, yeah. Listen, Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday.
It is.
And I'm very passionate about certain dishes at Thanksgiving and what you call them to make sure you're calling them the right things.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, you can prep on that for a little bit because it's a fun week. It's a weird week because we haven't seen Clemson like this in forever. Like, I'll be honest, Tyler, before you even came to town, and I know you followed college football, so it's not like you're like, well, this is new. There was that stretch from 2015 to 2021, really, in which Clemson rolled in top 4, top 5, top 6, top 3, whatever, and South Carolina's treading water trying to figure it all out. And for those that don't know, I think it was a rumor, like, especially from 16 to 20, to say Dabo and Muschamp didn't like each other would be one of the biggest understatements. And I know that for fact. That's not, that's Bill speculating. I'm not going to go into some details on that right at this moment. I want to get to other stuff. But, like, and Dabo didn't want to beat Muschamp.
Yeah.
He wanted to bludgeon him into the ground. And Muschamp wanted to beat Dabo, just
sure.
They were operating with, one was operating with AK-47s and one was operating with a couple sticks and a rock.
So the thing I hear most commonly when it comes to the Dabo-Muschamp relationship, if you want to call it that, is Dabo never cusses, but if you ask him about Will Muschamp, he will start cursing.
There's a story about that I have extremely, let's just say, good authority from Dabo being at a golf tournament with a very high-level Clemson booster, to which Dabo said words that
wasn't dad gums.
It wasn't Dabo Lang. I mean, those two disliked each other, and I don't know if we knew the dislike of the level of each other, but at least I do now. I learned late, and then I knew now. But though from 16 to 20 in particular, it was just like, can we get, it'd be Monday like this, and it'd be like, can we just get the game over?
Yeah. By the way, do you know the last time these two teams played where neither one of them was ranked? What year?
I'm going to go as far back. I don't know. 07 is going to be, if it's anything post 07, I'm surprised. Carolina was not ranked at the end of the year. 07, I can't say that they were in 06 or 05. 04 they wouldn't have been. 04 was bad. 04 was bad. I'm going to go pick number 1 is going to be 07. I'm going to go pick number 1 04 with 07 behind that.
Close. 2008. So Clemson was ranked 21st in 07.
Okay.
You're right. 04, neither team was ranked, but 08 was the last time neither team was ranked.
I should have known that. You know why? Because 08 was Dabo got the job.
That's
I should have known that.
Yeah.
Clemson.
That was when people were like, this Dabo, who's this guy?
Yeah, and Carolina was coming off of the 56-6 thumping of Florida. Yeah, that's a good one. 08. 803-404-6100. Again, we'll get into the Thanksgiving discussion, but it's an interesting week to say the least. I don't know if it's more fun because there's odd stakes. Like, for all we'll do it next hour. We'll do it next hour. I want to get there.
Sure.
We'll do it all next hour. Let me get to more of these texts, and if you want to call in, that's fine because I'm interested in your opinion. Mike Furry. I'm not saying to see the guy for the job. I'm asking to see top 3. My opinion. Right now, a little of this is based on sources. A little of this is based on speculation. It's kind of a combination, all right?
Okay.
Let me put this out there. This is a little bit of speculation. This is a little bit of my sources. This is a little bit of what I picked up over the weekend. Right now, the coordinator, Brad Glenn, from Cincinnati is in the mix.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
I'm not saying he's one.
Well,
I'm not saying he's two.
And that's a name that we've heard about in the past couple weeks as somebody that's at least on the radar. So, okay, that makes sense.
All right. So if I'm throwing a 3 out there to you.
All right.
If I'm throwing a 3 out there to you, Brad Glenn at Cincinnati.
Yep.
I was told over the weekend that one of the higher up candidates, again, just higher ups, is Georgia Tech offense coordinator Buster Faulkner.
Okay.
Take it for what it's worth.
Which he's done a really good job at Georgia Tech.
All right. Buster Faulkner is what I'm told is a higher up candidate. Haynes King is obviously leaving. There's some, so if you throw him in the mix, and that's where I was going with 2.
Yeah.
And then if you throw Mike Furry in there, now I'm not saying Mike Furry should be 1. I'm not saying he should be 2. My question is, are you willing to consider him 3? Because I don't know who out there is a hire that the fan base comes together and is like,
yeah. Now, I will say I have been of the belief that Buster Faulkner might be looking for a head coaching job.
Well, and there might be that.
So, look, if he wants to come here, I'd certainly welcome that. Out of those 3 candidates, I'd put Furry at 3. Again, he has, if you want to call it an advantage of already being here and being up to speed with the talent that you have, but I don't think that's quite as important now as maybe it once was. And that, Brad Glenn Cincinnati offense, very good. Now, I don't think Brandon Sorsby has any eligibility left, or he would think to potentially be like a package deal and transfer in here if like Sellers wasn't coming or something along those lines. But I might put Buster Faulkner at number 1.
Okay.
Sorsby at 2, and then Furry 3. If those are the only 3 options you're giving me.
That for right now.
Yeah.
I know that Brad Glenn is at least an option. To what extent?
Or Brad. I said Sorsby. Brad Glenn.
To what extent, I don't know. Is my guess that there will be some form of conversation? Yes, that's my guess. I was told over the weekend that Buster Faulkner. Now, I don't know if Buster Faulkner has any. You just mentioned it. I'm just told that Buster Faulkner is a name.
Yeah.
That is very high up on the list of people. Now, whether that again.
Now,
these are sources.
These are sources. Now, if that were the case, I feel like Faulkner is a hire that would create a lot of energy and excitement. Now, again, that's not the end-all, be-all of why you should hire someone, but that is a name that I think is well enough known around college football that if you got him, even the casual Carolina fan was like, oh, I know who that guy is.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Okay, and again, that's not the end-all, be-all for hiring someone, but I do think that would generate a positive reaction from everyone.
Okay. All right. So my question would be, if it's those 2 guys, and I would assume they're going to be hard pulls.
Yeah.
I would assume. I don't. You just mentioned why on Faulkner. Brad Glenn might be a little bit different. Again, there's a lot of ties there for Brad Glenn. He did attend Clemson University, if that means anything to y'all. I don't.
Is that a reason why you don't want to hire him?
Listen, you say that.
I know. Listen, I know there are people out there like, get that guy far away from here as possible.
But so my question would be, are you willing to, because again, they're hard pulls, if you swing and you miss on those 2 guys, are you willing to go, okay, Mike, with a good showing on Saturday, are you willing to go, okay, I'm good with Mike? Yeah. That's kind of where I want to go with it, not like, hey, are you willing to give Mike Furry the job?
Yeah, if those are 3 candidates, you missed on the other 2, they took other jobs elsewhere or whatever, and you ended up hiring Mike Furry, okay, because at least you went big game hunting, right? You went out there trying to get the big splash hire, didn't work out for whatever reason. Like, okay, if that's your 3rd option, fine.
803-404-6100. We'll come back, wrap up this hour. I might carry over this conversation just a little bit into the next hour because a lot of y'all got opinions. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, producer Ed Bird. It is the Halftime Show. 12:49 as we wrap up this hour. We'll stick with some of the offensive coordinator conversation. We'll get into the Clemson game next hour. We'll get into a failed weekend in West Virginia for the basketball program. We'll get into that. I don't want to go down a path just yet. We got basketball coming on here in just a minute. Actually, Towson and Rhode Island are playing right now as part of the...
Do we have any more tournaments in ballrooms, though?
Oh, yeah.
Because that was, the weekend didn't go well for Paris's crew, but the fact that they were playing inside of a ballroom, I love how weird college basketball gets, especially this time of year with the invitationals and tournaments and stuff like that. And the more obscure the place you can play, the better. And I think Greenbrier may take the cake so far this year.
Have they already done? Do they not do the Baja Mar anymore? I'm looking at everything right now. They used to do the Battle for Atlantis.
Yeah.
And the Baja Mar.
But those are in like traditional gyms, though.
No. Baja Mar is in the Baja Mar ballroom. I don't see that. Is that Baja Mar? Is it like classic? There it was. Those are like great tournament Baja Mar championship. Basketball. I love college basketball this time of the week. I love the Maui Invitational. I love growing up. It was the Maui Invitational, and folks the older folks, you'll remember this because South Carolina, I think, went up and won it. It was up in Anchorage, Alaska, the Alaskan Shootout. Those were like the original two, and you went up there and South Carolina won it one year, and I remember like being allowed to stay up, till like midnight listening to Bob Fulton on the call of South Carolina beating some. I think it was like UTEP in the Alaska Anchorage Shootout. Okay, Purdue's already won the Baja Mar. I know they hit a shot last week against Memphis at the buzzer to advance. That's right. That was the Baja Mar. Purdue and Memphis, Texas Tech, and Wake Forest were in the four of those. So, yeah, that one's already been played. And I don't know if this is a female tournament or not. The Pink Flamingo Championship, which features Ohio State, Belmont, McNeese, and West Virginia. It doesn't tell me if that's a female tournament or not. Anyway, and then we need to see if there's the Battle for Atlantis. 803-404-6100. Let's try and get through a few more of this. Because, again, we're going to circle back. I'm going to carry this conversation over about the offensive coordinator.
Yep.
Also, Chip Kelly's available, by the way.
I think
just throw that out there.
Somebody called into Elijah and Preston, I think last week, and said, "Hey, go get Chip Kelly." And of course, he was still employed at that point in time. I don't know, maybe they're on to something.
Texter weighed in, and the one said, "Been there. That sauce, the apple butter sauce, so good. Cranberry, way overrated." And that's Heath. Thank you, Heath from Aiken. Heath from Aiken. But he says if we promote Furry and hire within, it's a weak move, and Beamer should be gone. He's got a proven. I think he's referring to Beamer. He's got a proven negative track record. Another texter weighs in and said, Kimry for OC. His resume speaks for itself, and he's won everywhere he's been. Let me throw these some out, and then you can kind of go back. Texter says, how can he be top anything when he couldn't muster up a single score in the second half of A&M? Don't get me wrong, I love the win, but it was against Coastal. What do you take away? Oh, and Quarter weighed in and said Furry is not top three. I believe if this was last year when Loggins left, he would be fine. However, this hire will ultimately decide Beamer's future with the Gamecocks. Furry would have to put up 60 against Clemson, and your big splash OC would still have to say no for a real consideration. It's unfortunate because I like him.
If you put up 60 against Clemson, you're at least making a case for yourself. It seems like everybody's kind of split on this, though. Is that kind of the vibe you're getting?
I think everybody's split on everybody because, again, you're big on the Buster Faulkner one.
If you're going to give me that as a possibility, sure.
I'm saying that his name at least was mentioned to me this weekend as a name that now, again, Buster Faulkner may say no instantly on one phone call, or he may say, what's my price tag? But I will at least be willing to put my name behind the fact that I think Buster Faulkner and Brad Glenn are two names that I can at least feel confident that will get phone calls and attempted interviews with.
Yeah. We'll see.
And that's why I just throw Mike Furry in there as the third option. If you want to say, okay, if you swing and you miss on those two guys, do you keep this thing going, or do you look at Mike and be like, all right, man, it's your gig for a year. Save me. Save my job.
We'll see.
We'll continue talking about this, and we'll get into Clemson as well. It's the Halftime Show. It's Bill Gunner for Jacob Crowder, the mortgage guru with First Palmetto Bank. Now we are into Thanksgiving week. So I got it. You're not thinking about your home. Maybe you are. Maybe you've started doing a head count around the family and you're like, well, we got 14 coming and we really only can host about 7 here. We're going to need a bigger home in 2026. And now you're thinking like, I don't know if we should build or we should buy. Maybe we should remodel the home. I don't know. We got to do something. Well, the first phone call you got to do is call Jacob Crowder and see what is available to you, what the interest rates are, what your down payment could be, what your monthly mortgage payment would be. That's where he specializes, and that's where he helped me about 5 years ago. So call Jacob Crowder today and discover what your interest rates would be, what options First Palmetto Bank has for you, and learn more. 803-719-1005 is the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. 1 o'clock on your Monday. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner coming off of South Carolina defeating Coastal Carolina 51-7. And, you know, as far as we know, Tyler, from what Shane Beamer has said and what we understand, you honestly, Saturday was as big a success as you could have. Not because you won the game, not because you defeated Coastal Carolina, but because you won convincingly and you played backups. But at least, again, from what we know, no injuries.
Yeah, I mean, you had
Bumps and
Stewart
bruises.
Harbor out precautionarily.
But from what I understand,
Yeah,
Stewart
nobody
definitely could have played.
Yeah, nobody within the game got hurt. That's obviously one of the biggest objectives for games like that. So you came out relatively healthy. Again, you did your job. Again, at the end of the day, yeah, beating Coastal 51-7 is not a game we're going to be talking about for years to come, but at least for today and going into Clemson this upcoming weekend, you at least know that you went out there, did your job effectively, and picked up a comfortable win for the first time in 2 months.
By the way, Battle for Atlantis, November 26th through 28th. That'll be in that ballroom.
Okay.
So that's later on the week. But to go back, yeah, the game, it was a beautiful day. The crowd was phenomenal. The great job, the salute to the veterans, the flyover, the pomp and the circumstance and the pageantry. You couldn't draw up a more perfect just football Saturday. It was relaxed. I can't speak for everybody. I know our tailgate was, I put a video on Twitter. We took the PlayStation 5.
Nice.
By the way, I don't know why we did. It's easy to take. And we took the PlayStation 5. So before the game, Tyler, Austin's kind of sitting around, and I said, hey, simulate, put the game on the simulate it.
Sure.
On Austin's simulated Coastal Carolina, South Carolina game on PlayStation 5, Coastal won on a 2-point conversion at the final.
Oh, my God.
18-17. And so if that happens, at least we're ready for it. But it was a beautiful day. Again, you come out, you mentioned it. You were able to rest Nick Harvor. You were able to rest Dylan Stewart from whatever nagging injury he's been dealing with since Mississippi. You were able to play Cutter Woods a little more extensively than we've been able to see. You were able to play Air Noland.
It is still worth noting that Cutter Woods is the one taking the field first out of the two.
Can we be mean and judgy and picky?
If you want to, go ahead.
I see why.
Okay.
I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm not saying improvement cannot happen. I am not trying to I have a decent enough decent enough scouting background working with ESPN. I don't know what Air Noland did in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen highlights are highlights. Trust me, my high school highlights look phenomenal too.
Yeah.
My high school basketball highlights look phenomenal. I'm not enamored with him. Cutter Woods, the ball comes out different. There's a lot for him to learn. There's a lot he still needs to play extensively. You really need Lenora Sellers back.
Mm-hmm.
The two options for next year are Lenora Sellers or a transfer portal quarterback. I think in such an important year, in such a vital year, you cannot hand it over to Cutter Woods, but I think Cutter Woods has got a chance to be very good. But, and this is, again, I don't mean this in a mean way, and this is a 43-year-old, rather short fella sitting behind a microphone in a studio. But I will say again, a guy who has high school and college football and basketball scouting background, Tyler, I don't see it with Aaron Nolan. I didn't see it on Saturday in the limited throws that he made. Several were behind his receivers. The fade into the end zone that they got the pass interference for was not a particularly good throw. It didn't give the wide receiver a chance. I think it's very clear Cutter Woods is the guy. It will be the backup on assuming Luke Doty doesn't again.
I think he's finally done.
We think.
He got his flowers, got some snaps there before handing it over to the young guys. But yes, I think Luke Doty is officially done.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Y'all might have a different one, but I think it was very clear. Given the chance to actually watch them play, I thought it was more than clear.
Yeah, and look, he was brought in with the idea that, okay, if Sellers has a great year and goes off to the NFL, boom, Aaron Nolan's your guy for 2026. And again, just from what we've seen in terms of who goes in when, it doesn't seem like he's made the progression and development they would want where they could trust him in that scenario. And I'm with you. If Sellers does decide to go to the draft, you really need to go out there and get somebody in the portal. Maybe it's somebody that comes over with an offensive coordinator, depending on who you hire as part of a package deal or whatever. But I would be very concerned turning the reins of the offense over to either one of these guys right now that are still very raw and unproven.
Yeah. So that was my assessment of that particular situation with getting the backups in. My assessment, yesterday on the teleconference, Shane Beamer talked about Jawan Howell doing things more mature on and off the field. And the first play, everybody I've seen message boards and Twitter post about it, people talking about Jawan Howell getting downfield to block for Jaden Sellers on the opening touchdown play, the effort he showed. That's another one that's going to be a head-scratcher for me, especially in the A&M game where he gets 3 carries for 30 yards and is leading the way. I thought last year in the bowl game he was doing really good things. He did have a fumble and got pulled out, and we never saw him again. I can't help but wonder why have we not seen more Jarwan Howell this year? And I really hope it's not, his maturity level has just not been where we want.
Yeah.
Like that. And nothing against, I get that. I get that as a coach, Tyler, but
is there anybody that is maximizing their touches more than him on this team, or offensively at least?
Well, he's had so few that no. The answer to your question is no.
When you see him, it's like, okay, wow. And even going back to the A&M game last week where he was very involved early on, and then I think, did he get 1 touch in the second half or something like that?
He only had 3 in the first.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, when he gets the ball in his hands or when he's out there, again, making effort plays like he did on the opening touchdown, you see what that potential is. But and look, we're not at practice, and we don't get detailed reports coming out of practice, so we don't know what he's doing, Sunday through Friday during the week that's maybe keeping him off the field more. But I see more and more support of like, hey, let's get this guy the ball more and see what happens. Because, again, the ability seems to be there. Now, again, if he has to make some personal adjustments on the way he does things, then that ultimately is on him. But you see the talent and potential out of him when he is out there.
Yeah, him and Matthew Fuller, I put this on Twitter. And Rasul Faison, I thought ran the ball better. And I like Faison as running back number 3, and even a little bit as mixture of 2. It was unfortunate that the turf monster grabbed Faison on his long run. I don't think he gets to the end zone on that, but that was very unfortunate. But Rasul Faison came in, and I thought Rasul Faison did some really, really good things as well, and I think it gives you a nice three-headed grouping there. But to me, it's Fuller, Howell, and then Faison in a few more limited carries, if you will. And it is pretty much season's over, but in SEC play, it's imperative to really, in a game, have a 3-game depth chart there.
Well, and the way you're kind of positioning things right now, because you just had the running back of Amari Daniels decommit.
Thomas.
Decommit and flip to Florida State. You're not going to have Faison next year because it took long enough to get the 1 year of eligibility here. Right. He's not going to have another. So it's like, okay, is Fuller and Howell the future of your running back position? Do you go and get somebody in the portal? Like, again,
you do.
And this is the value of, even though you're not playing a bowl game, these last couple games is figuring out where guys stand with that kind of stuff and crafting your plan on what you're going to do in the offseason.
Yeah, no, you've got to hit the portal for another running back, and preferably even if that running back is RB1, that's fine. You don't go to the portal going, well, let's get a backup. And here's how I would do this is Bill Gunner speaking and not anybody else. Here's how I would do the portal. I would go looking for the best available, and that might be an RB1, and I'm just going to use Rocket Sanders as an example. You find a guy who, if he can be a starter, he's a starter. At worst case, he's He's a guy who's going to come in. And I don't what does a Gustav have? Is he a senior?
Augustive?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't think he is.
He might be RB3 next year, and I'm okay with that. But then I think you go get another running back next year who has eligibility. You don't go get a one-year assassin senior, and that's your running back kind of to develop, if you will.
So Augustive is a true junior.
Okay, so he's got another year.
Yeah, he played 2 full seasons at Colorado. So, yeah, he has at least another. And again, this shows you how much they've used him. I forgot about him in that running back room.
Just to be clear now, technically, I don't know. He's going to have he's either used a redshirt year, but you said he's a junior, so he could redshirt this year probably.
Let me see how many snaps he's taken.
It doesn't matter on snaps; it's games.
Or I mean games. That's what I meant, games.
And he very well could be in line for a red shirt and give you running back number 3, which I think the few times I've gotten to see him, I'm okay with him at running back number 3. All of a sudden, I'll be honest with Howe and Fuller, I'm not as down on the running back room as I had been. I'm not quite as down on them. So there was a couple assessments there from Saturday.
Okay, he's only played in 3 games so far this year.
So he could. So he'll red. He's got a red shirt.
Even if he plays this weekend, he could still red.
He's got a red shirt. So all of a sudden, he's got 2 years of eligibility to go with Matthew Fuller and Jawan Hill. So now there's your 3 for next year. And to me, I don't feel as bad about that position. I love the wide receiver position.
Sure.
Look, I like the offensive line position. Just give him a full year with Sean Elliott. I like the offensive line position. So we'll see. We'll see. But I thought there were positives. There were things you take away from that game. What does it lead to for the Clemson game? That's my question to you this afternoon. And then Mike Furry. Again, and I'll get back to a lot of these texts because you're right, Tyler. A lot of people are divided on the Mike Furry hire, and a lot of people saying we need to go outside. Some people are saying, it depends on this, it depends on that. I'll get back to those texts. We'll get into some basketball discussion. Pittsburgh, are they still a fan favorite? Or I should say, are they a corporate favorite in the ACC this week right now, or is the league office looking at it in like, can't you guys just lose and do something right for us to help?
Well, they did lose against Notre Dame, but that game didn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah.
They nearly blew it against Tech.
Can't you guys just like not nearly cost us pretty much everything we have on the line? So we'll get into a big picture college football because surprisingly, Tyler, you don't get this often. We didn't get that crazy weekend. Normally you get the one or two things that pop up, and we didn't necessarily get that.
It was perhaps the most tame weekend of college football we've had this year.
It was.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So we'll get into college football playoff rankings that will come out tomorrow night as well. Jamie Bradford due up in about an hour. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, producer Ed Bird. It is the Halftime Show.
It's all right here for our friends over at Tilly's Warehouse. First wine and spirits store in 5 Points in the past 20 years. Locally family owned and operated over there in 5 Points in the old Pavlov's building right behind the Salty Nut Cafe over there on Green Street. Easy to find, easy to get in and out of. And they've got whatever you need for a fun night in, a weekend of tailgating, or hey, Thanksgiving's coming up later on this week. And if you need to stock up, Tilly's has got you covered. Whatever you're drinking, they have got what you need. If you want some G4 tequila, well, they've got that. You want things like High Noons or Sun Cruisers, buy the case or buy the individual cans, they've got those as well if you head over there to Tilly's Warehouse. They also have a Class B license, so if you're a bar in the area looking to restock, they've got you covered there too. Mention that you heard this ad on 107.5 The Game, and you can get 10% off any wine selection. Give them a follow on Facebook and Instagram, or visit their website, tillyswarehouse.com, and discover why Tilly's is your new must-visit spot over at 5 Points.
It is 1:20 on your Monday. Rivalry week, feast week, whatever you want to call it. We got some college basketball on the Players Era Championship now underway. I believe this one is out in, Vegas, MGM Grand there. Not a ballroom, I believe. Looks like an actual arena. Rutgers and Tennessee is taking place, so you've got college basketball throughout the day and some really good games. I always loved the Maui Invitational. It was the great Alaskan shootout that I was referring to earlier. Thank you to Murray and Andrew for helping me out with that a little bit and getting me straight. That used to be a lot of fun, and now we've expanded to the Players era and the Battle for Atlantis and the Greenbrier and Fort Myers and so forth and so on, where you have these MTEs, multiple team events, taking place all over the place, and we kind of go from there. 803-404-6100. Back to the text line for a minute. So, again, and we're going to get to the Clemson game. We got plenty of time to do that. Jamie Bradford coming up at 2:15. But I'm trying to gauge the y'all's interest, the listener, on what you took away from Saturday, if anything at all. And if you took nothing, I totally understand. If you're listening this afternoon and you're like, Bill, it was Coastal. I've seen them for 10 games. They are who they are. That was it was a one. I'm not arguing with you. I'm not telling you you're wrong. My question is, was there anything in there that you're like, okay, that kind of like that for the Clemson game, that one play, that one wrinkle, that one player, Jarwan Howe, that, was there something there? So, that's kind of question number one. Question number two, is Mike Furrey, and I'm not saying he's number one. I'm not trying to tell y'all, or I'm not trying to convince you that I think he's the number one option. Do we still have him in play as the offensive coordinator? Jacob says needs to be the hire from the outside. Furrey's doing well, but has an advantage because defense coordinators don't have any tape on him. Need somebody proven. Okay, but again, if you hire a Buster Faulkner or a Brad Glenn, guess what? There's tape on them. David weighs in, if all your other OC options decline, then I don't have an issue with Furrey as OC, but make an honest effort to hire outside of hiring within like last year.
Well, here's the thing. Are we going to know, like if they named, like let's just say a week from now, they named Mike Furrey the OC, are we going to specifically know how many people turned down the job?
No.
Because no matter it's always going to be positioned as we got the guy we wanted, right? Nobody ever says when you hire a coach, all right, yeah, he was like our seventh option. Like, no, it's always going to be said, this was our guy. We think he's going to do the best job, whether he was the first option or the fifth option. So the optics of hiring Furrey are going to be the same regardless. At the end of the day, you made the hire from within. You wanted the continuity, all that kind of stuff. Whether, again, you got turned down by four other guys ahead of him or not.
Well, and then that's my question. Like, all right, what's the number? Quarter at least weighs in, and I don't know if he's being facetious or not, says make 8. All right. 8 proven OCs say no before Furrey is a thought. Beamer has to put work in to attempt on this hire. Don't just look for someone who's interested in coming. Throw away the resumes that have been sent to you and go for who could take Beamer to the next level. I don't know. And here's another text. And this is a good see. So Tyler, another texter weighs in. Yes, Furrey is an option. Familiar with players. Key to the receivers, has opened up the offense. As an outsider, what do you get?
I mean, it's a valid question, and there is something to be said about continuity, but that's exactly the same thing he did last year, and it didn't work. Now, again, Furrey's showing you a lot more in his first 8 quarters than what Shula showed you in 4 in the bowl game. And again, 4 of those quarters are against Coastal, so take that for what it's worth. But I think the outside hire, if you can bring in somebody with a proven track record of really good, consistent college offenses at the Power 4 level, hopefully, that is what would be the appeal of somebody from the outside that comes in and just kind of takes it to that other level.
The only thing I'll say about the outside, this is the only drawback I have. There is nobody out there that is going to text in. There should be nobody here on this station who says that next year is not essentially a pivotal. It's not a make or break year, because a make or break year also means if you have a great year, Shane's solidified for 5 more years, right?
Right.
Like, so let's be clear about that. It's not a make or break year just from the standpoint of like, oh, he had a good year, now he gets 5 more years. But we know what the consequences of 2026 are going to be for Shane Beamer's future as a head football coach. My fear, if I'm Shane Beamer, now you have to get over this, right? You got to get over what I'm going to tell you. You bring in a whole new guy with a whole new system, with a whole new terminology, and you go, hey, bud, you got 14 spring practices to install. You might have a whole new set of players. We don't know how the transfer portal is going to work out. You might have a brand new quarterback to work with. Hey, bud, you got, I don't know, 28, 27 practices to install and get everybody on the same page. Now, that's offensive coordinators have done that. I'm not throwing something out that's like unrealistic and that people can't do. I'm also, Dow Loggins came in and instantly recognized Xavier Legette and was like, 17 seems not bad. Why do we not use him?
Yeah.
But with all that being said, that would be, and I'm just giving you my fear. I'm not telling you why you wouldn't do it. That's just like going outside. It's not a reason not to do it. It's not a reason not to go after, again, the two names that I've got right now, the two names that I've got, and I've got nothing else, is Buster Faulkner at Georgia Tech and Brad Glenn at Cincinnati. And that sets up for a totally, those two dudes.
Yeah.
And if I asked you those two dudes, all right, are y'all going to be split on them two dudes, or are you going to go like, oh, no, Buster Faulkner, Tyler's all into Buster Faulkner?
Yeah, look, okay, you can make the argument that's in the ACC, so how comparable is that to the SEC? But I've seen him put up a lot of yards against like a Georgia defense last year. So he's done it against good teams as the offense coordinator. Again, I was of the belief that this is a guy that's going to be taking a head coaching job next up as opposed to switching to being an OC somewhere else. But hey, if he's a candidate, I mean, I'd be all for it. And again, he's somebody that came in and energized Georgia Tech's offense, and they're being successful because of it. And the hope would be the same thing here. As you said, like with Dow Loggins, he was an outside hire that came in and, it didn't blow everybody away, but he was able to identify some of the talent and get those guys to be utilized in better ways when he was here at OC. So I don't know. I lean towards the outside hire happening. Would I be shocked if he stays in-house with Furry? No. But again, it just kind of depends on what these other candidates do.
803-404-6100. We'll transition to basketball. I'm interested to hear Tyler's thoughts. I'll give my take. I'll be interested to hear yours. South Carolina falls to Butler and Northwestern over the weekend in the Greenbrier tip-off. You're listening to the Halftime Show. 1:34. Jamie Bradford due up in an hour, a little less than an hour. We'll get back to some football discussion. Obviously, tomorrow we'll completely turn the calendar to the South Carolina Clemson game. 4-7 South Carolina, 6-5 Clemson. Y'all know the numbers. Or maybe you've tried to forget them. Maybe everybody's tried to forget them. I don't know. But nonetheless, we'll get into that. Different vibe this year. It does. I will bring up this and just put this in the back of your mind for homework, because for the first time for both teams, does like winning this game really? Clemson, I can see where Clemson would say like, no, Clemson's won championships.
Mm-hmm.
I totally get where Clemson would be like, nah, this game this weekend, we've won championships. But this is the first time in a while we actually go like, does this game define your season? Can you literally win this game and go to the offseason and be like, nah, I don't want to say a success, but can you win this game? And don't answer. Let's put it on the back burner for tomorrow.
All right.
But can you literally put this in the back burner or put this on your offseason thing and be like, all right, I'll take it? Because I see a lot of people go, I'd go 0-11 every year. Or I'd go 1-11 every year if we just beat Clemson.
You say that. Reality's different.
Well, then they say it with a straight face, and you're like, you don't mean that. They go, oh, yeah, I do. Oh, all right. Well, you're about to be 4, and you're 4-7, and we're about to find out. 803-404-6200. Phone lines. We go. Scott, thank you for waiting, buddy. What's on your mind this afternoon?
Good. Thanks for taking my call. I'm not a South Carolina fan. I live in Columbia, but I'm not a South Carolina fan. But anyway, I'm a sports fan, and you guys would be stupid not to hire Fury. He's from Limestone. He knows the state. He scored 27 or 30 points against the number 3 team in the country the first half. They self-destructed the second half, but who else could say they put that many points on Texas A&M in the first half? Also, the guys, now Shula was a dud. Beamer made a mistake on that, and if he doesn't get it right next year, he's going to be gone. So why don't you take a guy that's been around South Carolina? They scored 54 points against Coastal Carolina. They put 30 points up against A&M. It's a no-brainer. Give them a chance. You can also save on some money salary-wise to hire this guy. If you hire a guy from Cincinnati and South Carolina goes 3-9 next year, Beamer's going to be gone anyway. So hire Fury and just be over with it. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
Okay.
Good. Bye.
Thoughts?
So you brought up a thing about Limestone and the connections to the state. How much does that matter for this hire? How much does
none to me.
The connection?
None to me.
Either to the program, the state, or whatever like how much does that factor? Because we talk about that a lot, right? For mainly the purposes of recruiting and familiarity with pipelines and all that kind of stuff. And, knowing the high school coaches, which Furry knows very well here in the area from recruiting guys to come to Limestone and all that kind of stuff, especially with today's world where you can flip rosters as much. I don't know if that part matters as much. I mean, and that was a big criticism when Kalen DeBoer got hired at Alabama. And I get it, it's a head coaching job, so that's a little bit different. But, man, how is Kalen DeBoer going to walk into high schools in Alabama and convince people to come to the Crimson Tide? Well, he's doing a pretty good job of that. So I don't know if that was as a concern as it needed to be. If you want to hire somebody that spent their entire time in Oregon, for crying out loud, if they can come here and spark the offense, I don't think it matters as much what their local ties are if they have any.
Well, look, part of what Scott said, part of what we all agree, you may hire the best offensive coordinator out there available. I don't know who that is, and somebody asked earlier, Chip Kelly is available. Yes, Chip Kelly is available.
I'm going to put that as doubtful, personally.
I put it in the long shot category. I guess never say never. But with that being said, if you're I do want you to think about this. If you're trying to make the best hire possible, and let's use Kendall Briles, because I have no idea on the Buster Faulkner situation, but let's just use Kendall Briles.
Okay.
The best hire possible, Ben Arbuckle, I think, also fits this from where we were in the middle of the year.
Sure.
Is kind of waiting in line to get a head coaching job.
Yes.
And you mentioned earlier, I think off air, Buster Faulkner was hoping for a head coaching job.
Yeah, he's a name that gets brought up a lot. And look, he's probably not going to be hired as the Auburn coach or something, but considering the fact that a lot of G5 schools are probably going to become opening, I could see him going to a Memphis or a South Florida or something along those lines. Like that seems like kind of what his next step is going to be. Because, again, he's already proven he's a really good Power 4 coordinator at Georgia Tech, which is why I was surprised when you brought his name up, because I'm like, I don't know if he'd be looking here to jump over to the SEC. I would think he'd want to become a head coach next.
Yeah, I just I wonder, are we all willing to sell out for 1 year and then figure out again next year? Does that make sense?
Well, if it's a good enough season, sure. If you can tell me what the results are going to be and say, well, you only get the guy for 1 year, then he gets hired as a head coach, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I mean, if he does well enough, 803-4. It's I guess it's like the Lenore Sellers thing this past year. Well, if he's good enough to go pro after,
that means you had a great season.
Yeah.
Sure, you take it, and then it's like, okay, we'll figure out the rest when we get there. But for the time being, you just need an offense to get things back on track. And if you tell me Buster Faulkner's going to come here, light the world on fire, and then go take a head coaching job somewhere,
but then
great.
You're back in this boat.
But you are.
You're back in this boat next December trying to figure it all out again.
I think that is a conversation you'd be willing to have, because that means you were successful enough to where, A, you saved Coach Beamer's job, and B, it sounds like you had a good enough season.
803-404-6100. I'll get back to a lot of these text messages that have rolled in. There's a lot of opinions here from several of y'all. But quickly, basketball from the weekend. It was a huge weekend from the standpoint of South Carolina plays 12 non-conference games, 4 of which are, I'm going to use this term lightly, marquee opponents.
Yeah, quality competition.
Quality. Butler, Northwestern, Virginia Tech, and Clemson. Those were your 4. In my opinion, you probably needed to go 3-1, no worse than 2-2. You are now 0-2 against Butler because everybody else is going to have a Ken Palm outside of probably about 275, 260, or they're going to be closer to 300 and even lower. Yeah, you were competitive at times, but you didn't get the wins. 3-point shooting, we now know, I mean, maybe we already knew going in, they're going to shoot a lot of threes, and they're going to live and die by the 3. And if you're in a building where you don't feel comfortable shooting and you can't make them, the odds of you winning drop almost into single digits.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern, especially on Friday, was just the physicality not being there. They got bullied at the basket by Butler.
That's who they are. How did they lose yesterday?
Yeah, that's going to be a consistent thing throughout the season, unfortunately. Now, again, there's going to be some nights where the 3 ball's falling, and it doesn't matter how poor you might be defensively near the basket because you're making up for it on the other end. But on other nights where it's not falling, that's going to come back to bite you.
Give them credit. Both games, they at least rallied down the very stretch. I don't know if they've got a unique way of kind of playing dead, kind of like Southern Miss. And then all of a sudden the opposing team kind of falls for it. And the next thing you know, they're back in the game. And Michi Johnson's hitting behind the back shots from standing.
He just had a frenzy of about 60 seconds there.
I'm not sure exactly what keeps happening here. But you're right. There is a lack of power. Despite having 7-footers, a lack of size, a lack of strength in the post area. Defensively, both games they've given up 79. Both games they gave up 79 points. Oddly enough, in the near loss to Southern Miss, they gave up 79 points. That was in overtime, I guess, for what it's worth. But even, you go back to that yesterday, the final play, they throw it down low, and Elijah Strong, by my look, I'd be willing to hear Lamont Paris's or another high-qualified basketball coach. I felt like Elijah Strong was in somewhat of a good position. He just got bullied. As you just said, their dude made the play, and our guy didn't.
And again, he's somebody that can give you good things on offense. And I thought when he came in yesterday, provided a little bit of a spark, got the 3-point shooting going a little bit there for South Carolina. But yeah, on the other end, he didn't have what you need. And I don't know who that dominant defensive player could end up being on this team, but I don't see it right now.
You don't have it.
No.
I mean, when you say you don't see it, it's because you don't. It's just it's not there.
And again, this weekend was about learning, and I think that kind of confirmed what maybe some of the worst fears about this team are. Is like you can have some flash on offense, but if you're not playing on the other side as well, then you're gonna have some long nights.
803-404-6100. We'll come back and wrap up hour number 2. You're listening to the Halftime Show. And we'll wrap up hour number 2, and we'll move on to hour number 3. And Jamie Bradford will join us, but having a little bit of basketball discussion from a weekend in which, South Carolina's a better basketball team than they were last year.
Yeah, I think I feel comfortable saying that.
They're better. I've watched a lot of basketball lately. How do they stack up with the SEC? Not particularly great right now. Can that change? Well, can South Carolina continue to improve and be more competitive? Yes, but we'll see what happens. And yesterday, they've got an opportunity for. Look, would it be a big win? Would it be some kind of program? No, but it would have helped you down the line, and I think build a little bit of confidence. And instead, you get scored on there in the final 3 seconds.
Yeah, and we're watching Tennessee and Rutgers play right now at the Players Era Championship, and Tennessee just looks bigger than and I haven't seen them on the court with South Carolina. They just look like a bigger team, and you're going to deal with that a lot this year in the SEC. So how do you match up? Can the physicality improve? I don't know. Again, we were expecting to learn a lot from the team this weekend out in Greenbrier, and I think we kind of learned that, okay, it's going to take a lot of flash on offense and having some of those on nights to pick up some wins this year, probably, because the defense is where things are a little bit questionable.
803-404-6100. Let's go to the phone lines. Barry wants to weigh in on men's basketball. Barry, thank you for the hold. What's on your mind this afternoon?
Good morning. Good afternoon, guys. You doing all right?
Doing good.
Yep.
All right. Bill, I remember, I think Friday, you just said we're talking about the non-conference schedule in basketball, how he had set it up, Paris had set it up for whatever reason. I forget what your explanation was. But, this was the meat of their non-con schedule, basically, like we discussed. And, a couple of top 100 teams, Butler, they were a good quality team one time. They haven't made the tournament in 7 years. Northwestern has never been relevant. A couple, 2 or 3 years in the last 2 or 3 years. So, when you have a soft non-conference schedule like that, I mean, absolutely soft, just like in baseball this past year came back to haunt them, you're not setting yourself up well for the SEC. I mean, look at a team like Kansas, who I think's already played Duke, North Carolina, Duke. That's challenging somebody. That's challenging your team earlier on to get ready for conference play. So now you've got Virginia Tech and Clemson left, and after that, that's it. I mean, those losses, even though they were close, and they are improved. Don't get me wrong. I love Elijah Strong. I think he's good. The big guy, Big Mike, I think he'll come around. They are a better basketball team. They're bigger. They're a little bit more diversified. I like that aspect of it. But these losses, the committee, they're looking now, okay? They look at that overtime game. They look at these 2 games. They look and they say, oh, wow, you can't beat Butler and Northwestern. What are you going to do against the Candaces of the world? What are you going to do against the national leaders in the country? So what I'm saying is the schedule's soft, and those losses are basically make you have to win 2 more games in the SEC to make it to the tournament. And that's just my reasoning.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, Funko. I agree with you, and I don't agree with you. What you're saying about Kansas, or I think it's Tennessee and the run they're about to go on. I can't remember who else. I was looking at UConn. And remember, UConn did away. Dan Hurley, was it last year, 2 years ago, railed against the Maui Invitational and playing in those tournaments. And UConn's playing this killer non-conference schedule. But those teams are set for that. South Carolina wasn't. And it's the weirdest thing about college basketball, Tyler, as opposed to like football. Baseball's like college basketball, and that you can schedule year to year to year.
Sure.
You're not setting a schedule up for in like football's case, like 2036, where we play Virginia Tech. You don't. It's not how it works. But you can base your schedule on your team, and I like that this schedule now. What Barry is saying is correct. Yet it meant that if, and this is a huge if, you were in that position at the end of the season in March to be considered on the bubble or whatever, you had to have those resume wins.
Sure.
You had to have them. Butler, according to Ken Palm, now this is after everything from yesterday, Butler's number 48. Northwestern is number 47. Clemson, who just won the Charleston tip-off tournament, beat Georgia yesterday. Georgia is number 32 Georgia's 38. Clemson is number 32 in that ranking, and Virginia Tech after the weekend is now 57. But that's all hypothetical on you being a tournament team.
That's the thing. You're going to have ample opportunity against good teams every single week in conference play, so you don't have to bolster your non-conference with a ton of challenging matchups.
Well, and if you've got a team that's ready for it and not whatever it was, 11 new players or whatever it was, then you take on that challenge.
Sure.
And you schedule that way. Lamont Paris is trying to learn this team, trying to figure things out, and he wants a lot of games to be able to toy with lineups and learn things about his team and build confidence, and that's how he scheduled it. That also means you have to go completely undefeated in those games, and you really needed to go 2-2 and these things. And then you need to win double-digit conference games. You're not going to get the benefit of the doubt going 8-10.
Right. Yeah. Again, you'll have your opportunities.
We'll come back. Hour number 3, a nice, quiet weekend in college football, with the exception of one thing. We'll tell you about that. Wrap up the Coastal Carolina thoughts and move on to Jamie Bradford. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Tyler Head, producer Ed Bird. It is the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market, where it is the holiday season. That's right, holiday season is upon us. Do you have your turkey for the week? Some of you don't like turkey. I don't understand what's wrong with you, but hey, I actually saw Alyssa Lang the other day, yesterday, say she doesn't like turkey. She likes a great ribeye steak. Well, you know where she should go? Old Timey Meat Market in one of their 3 locations, South Congaree, St. Andrews Road, Irmo, or the Lexington store, and pick up a fantastic steak, because at Old Timey Meat Market, they have the absolute best cuts of meat with the absolute best price. Not only that, they have plenty of other things. You looking for a new smoker or grill this coming Thanksgiving or Christmas? A Traeger grill is the direction to go. Just stop by the Traeger headquarters right there at the Lexington store, right in front of Pastime Movie Theater. So stop by Old Timey Meat Market today and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Jamie Bradford due up with us here in about 15 minutes. We'll get to him, but let me get to some of these text messages that y'all have all weighed in on a lot of different options this week, this afternoon, whatever day it is, wherever we're at, as we get you set for Thanksgiving week. We've talked about South Carolina as a whole, the game against Coastal. Did you take anything from it? Just, do you feel better? Did it matter? Was it game 11? And if you're kind of like me, you're like, probably could have seen that for 10 other games, and we'd be bowl eligible.
Yeah, I mean, you won. There's joy in winning because you hadn't done that in 2 months.
And it was a beautiful day.
Beautiful day, nice day. Crowd was, at least beginning, was better than I thought.
Had kids with me. Had a blast.
Yeah, I mean, good environment seemed like. Again, the honoring the military and all that's always cool. Senior day, got to, say farewell to guys that have been here for a long time, Doties and Duns and stuff like that have been here even before Beamer got here. So yeah, just a fine Saturday. Again, does it, change your opinion on what the season is? No, but at least for Saturday and today reacting to it, you can feel good about that.
Keith weighs in. It was Coastal. They did exactly what they were supposed to do, but I'm glad we didn't embarrass ourselves. The positive take could be that it was a confidence builder going into Clemson. A fun win can make a difference in the team's head.
Yeah, I mean, look, it could have been a situation where you're sweating out another game against a Sun Belt opponent, which unfortunately they've done quite a few times in Beamer's tenure. We're having to come out here and talk about what went wrong, this could have been better, that could have been better, but instead we're not. So yeah, if it builds confidence, because there is something to be said about going out there and doing your job regardless of who the opponent is, that hopefully carries over to this weekend.
Robert weighs in and said, with the other thing we've talked about, how do you feel after Saturday? Did it at least open your mind a little bit to Mike Furry? I'm not saying, what I'm not trying to do is tell any of you or ask any of you, did you now go, okay, Mike Furry should be the OC? What I am asking is, did it at least open your mind to him? And Robert weighs in and said, this is Shane's most important hire of his career at South Carolina. His future here depends on it. That we all agree upon.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And again, I feel like, as I've said for the past week or so, he's a candidate. I know he's a candidate. Where he's on that list, I don't know, because we don't know all the list of candidates as of right now. He's going to be considered, as he should be, and outside of the second half against A&M, he's shown you some good stuff. I don't know if that is the direction Beamer ultimately wants to go, unless, the options of outside hires are just not what he wants.
Another texter weighs in and said, we've had a great glimpse of Mike Furry. Question is if Mike Furry's offense scores over 30, do you hire him as OC? What has to be the point average for him to be confident hiring him as OC? Of course, they have to beat Clemson. Well, again, point average, I think, is out the window. But I do wonder, there is an element where Saturday is a little bit of a test for him, a final exam, if you will.
Sure.
How much, I don't know.
Yeah.
Final exam from Mike Furry, by the way.
Yeah, and look, again, if he goes out there and scores 63 and puts up 500 yards of offense, then you're at least giving it strong consideration. I don't know if that I don't know if there's any specific result from Saturday that you look at and say, okay, if he crosses these benchmarks, he's definitely getting the job. I do think there are performances that help his case out a little bit more to make him more attractive of a hire. But I don't know for sure, even if it is the best game he's called so far, eclipsing what happened this past weekend, if that makes it a slam dunk, yes, they're absolutely going to make him the OC now.
By the way, now that I just say this out loud, don't be surprised if in order to keep Mike Furry, if for the new coordinator, there's a lot of other little pieces that go to this, like if it is an outside hire, do they want to keep Mike Furry? Do they want to do this? Do they want to do that, right? Like you mentioned last week on the conference, on the Wednesday press conference, it said passing game coordinator. To give Mike Furry a little more money, and to kind of keep him if he gets some kind of OC role. Now, we a lot of times in college football, Tyler, we both know that actually means little more than, hey, board of trustees, AD, he's the co-OC, give him another $250,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because I could see that also.
Sure. And we know, like everybody in that offensive staff, he's had involvement in the offense the entire year. And I'll go back to a point one of the callers made, I think in the first hour, like, well, if he had so much input, why wouldn't the offense better with Shula? Well, at the end of the day, Shula's the one that calls plays. Shula's the one that decides in what scenarios, what plays are going to be called, which plays are in his playbook come Saturday. For all we know, Furry could have given him a laundry list of recommendations that he crumpled up and threw in the trash can and said, no, I think I know best. So that can be why we see a difference in the offense now that Furry's calling plays, because he's calling more things that he wants to call. I don't put the blames of the offense necessarily on him just because he was involved in the game planning, because again, at the end of the day, Shula's the one that had to call the plays on game day.
We've talked a little bit of basketball. South Carolina loses over the weekend to Butler, yesterday to Northwestern. Marshall weighs in and says, even for a team that we knew was going to shoot a lot of threes, this gets exhausting.
Yeah. Especially when they're not falling. And I know there's criticism of the setup there, the rims and all that kind of stuff, but Northwestern and Butler were playing on the same stuff you were, and they found ways to score, so you have to, unfortunately, adapt to your element sometimes, and, really, really good teams are able to do that. And look, give them credit. I'm not looking for silver linings here, but as rough as those games might have been, you still, especially against Northwestern, were in position to win it late. You didn't get a stop there in the final 2 seconds by Elijah Strong. They gave up the winning shot. You battled back and put yourself in a spot to make it interesting against Butler. So it's not like you're getting blown out in those games, but again, you saw some of the deficiencies this team has.
And another texter weighs in on basketball. It says, if we have to depend on Strong to make our points, that's not good. Too many missed opportunities.
Yep. Again, he provides you a little spark, but he shouldn't be your main source of offense.
Not the way you want to go. College football, we'll get the college football playoff rankings tomorrow night. But, Tyler, normally it feels like this time of the year you get every weekend, you get something kooky, crazy, strange. Maybe it's Missouri pulling off the upset over Oklahoma. Maybe it's Arkansas going into Austin and pulling the upset. Maybe it's a huge one. Maybe it's Southern Cal knocking off Oregon that we didn't see coming. Aside from Pittsburgh over Georgia Tech, which for the record, picked Pittsburgh on our Big Spur Pick'em Challenge. I took Pittsburgh to win that game. Nothing crazy this weekend that upsets the apple cart. I will say, after thinking about it, and this is just me, Indiana's win over Oregon is better than anything that Ohio State has done. I'd have Indiana at 1 and Ohio State at 2. It's completely irrelevant. It is entirely irrelevant in the college football playoff ranking. They're going to play each other in 2 weeks.
They are, and if they haven't made that move by now, they're not going to. And, they're going to go in the same A&M bludgeon Samford. That's not going to change. It's like, okay, do you give Oregon maybe some credit for beating Southern Cal, who was ranked pretty high?
The credit to me goes to Indiana for going to Oregon and winning.
Yeah, so I'm not expecting anything drastic. Really, the only significant shakeup was by Pitt beating Georgia Tech by almost blowing that lead that they got early on in the game. Then now Virginia and SMU are in the driver's seat in the ACC. I think outside of just mass chaos, Georgia Tech effectively ended their playoff hopes this past weekend. Pitt needs some chaos to happen to get themselves to the conference championship. So if SMU and Virginia handle their business, then those two teams are playing for the one spot I think the ACC gets. And look, Miami needs help too. They could have benefited from some chaos happening this weekend because they got to vault up about 3 more spots to get one of those at-large bids, and this past weekend didn't help them out.
Well, they took care of business, and that's all. Control what you can control.
You notice they tacked on an extra touchdown late.
Very wise.
VT made it a 10-point game. They got an extra touchdown, make it 17 for style points.
Very wise,
because that's what they need right now is style points.
Miami wins 34-17. Vanderbilt 45-17 over Kentucky. BYU, that's another team sitting there at 11. 26-14. Alabama 56-0. Notre Dame 70-7. Again, Georgia 35-3, Texas 52-37. Michigan blows out Maryland 45-20. Tennessee with no problem over Florida. So you see, and that goes on. Now you did have 2 upsets. Wisconsin, poor Brett Bielema, 27-10 over Illinois, and you also had an upset, TCU 17-14 over Houston. None of those are relevant to the college football playoff.
No, but how about Luke Fickell, man? ever since that vote of confidence, he's actually
they believe
got
in
him
him
playing
now.
some decent football. So maybe there's hope for him yet.
I believe in him. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. Jamie Bradford joins us. It is the Halftime Show. It is 2:17 on a Monday, and that means Mr. Jamie Bradford. And, of course, the reason we have Jamie Bradford on, one reason and one reason only, Jamie. Aside from the turkey, what is the best side dish? What is the side dish that Jamie Bradford will be focused on, made sure that it's made by the right person, made correctly, and will be where you will be after, I assume you love turkey, will be right after the turkey on the plate?
My mom's broccoli casserole.
Ooh.
That's a layup question for me. Yeah, so hers is more souffle, not chunky broccoli. It's got plenty of cheese. It's got all the good stuff. It's easy to eat. Absolutely, my mom's casserole, and then my wife's pumpkin pie cheesecake for dessert.
Yeah, sounds pretty solid.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But I'm the guy. Look, there is. I won't call anybody out in my family, but there is one thing that I say every year. Oh, I already ate that, and I never put it on my plate. But I am the guy that tries to fit every single side on the plate. If that makes sense.
I don't do that. Are you a everything on the plate guy?
There's a few things that I won't eat. I'm not a deviled egg person, so that's not going on the plate. But I try and get a little bit of everything for the most part.
Okay.
Give them to me.
Yeah, you can have all of them, Jamie. Please.
Yeah, but there's a difference now. Like the devil, I'm more of a mayonnaise deviled egg guy. Like people that make it too mustardy, I'm not a big fan.
Okay.
I didn't even know there was a distinction.
Oh, deviled eggs is not my. That definitely, and see to me, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong. Deviled eggs is more of a pre-Thanksgiving dinner, lunch thing. It's kind of the snack around prior to you get there.
100%.
I'll defer to the expert on this.
But if there's any left over, I'll take them.
Okay.
I got them. I got your back on that. Whoever made the deviled eggs, I got your back. I'll take care of them for you.
Good deal. All right. Well, let's actually get to some football stuff. I've had two major questions today, and I'm interested in your take. Obviously, look, it was Coastal. South Carolina did what they had to do. 51-7. That was kind of some things we'd been looking for all season. But do you take, Jamie, what do you take anything away from that, given that it's game 11? Was there something in there, whether it was Jarwan Howell, whether it was, offensive line play? Was there anything in there that you take away and go, okay, I like that can be used or used as momentum moving toward Clemson, aside from the fact that as far as we know, there are no major injuries?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wish that they would have had that tush-push thing around when my friend Pat DeMarco was the tight end. I can tell you that. He'd have some more touchdowns under his name. Well, I think what you take away, look, we could go back and forth with some of the things that happened in the game. They're obviously going more horizontal in the passing game. They're trying to get downhill in the run game. We can do this all day long and really talk X's and O's. But I take away what you said just a moment ago. That's what mattered. They did what they were supposed to do. They haven't done what they were supposed to do in their game this year. I mean, if you go back and think about it, I mean, and the best example of that is South Carolina State. I mean, people walked out of that game trying to find every excuse under the sun to give to this football program. Well, they didn't kick off till real late, and they weren't interested in being there. Vanderbilt's next, bull. That's all junk. They weren't a very good football team, and they had to play against Coastal this past weekend. Now, they had lost their quarterback, who really had their offense humming for the last 4 games, and I understand that. But, I mean, aside from whether that kid was in there or not, South Carolina was a much better team, and they should go out and show it, and they did. That game was over in the first quarter. So I give a lot of credit to the staff, but obviously I give a lot of credit to the players, because it's pretty easy to just throw your hands up and say, well, this season's over. And these guys, they didn't come out there and show any signs of that on Saturday evening.
And now that we've got 8 quarters of Mike Furry offense in the books, obviously the latter 2 against A&M weren't all that great. What's your overall assessment? We've been debating back and forth about his candidacy to be the full-time OC. Where do you sit on that as of right now?
I mean, obviously, if it ends well, he needs to be a candidate. Will he get the job? I'm not going to comment on that. I have no idea. I don't know what Coach Beamer wants to do and all those type things. But as far as where he is, right? I mean, I don't think that there's a guy in the building who can handle it any better than he has. I mean, he's energized them. You've seen some new stuff introduced, obviously, that I got a feeling you're going to probably see again this week against Clemson, maybe enhanced a little bit. You know, they put some things on tape and see how they build off of that. And obviously you've seen some personnel changes. And you've seen a difference in Lenore Sellers. I mean, he's getting the ball out of his hands. I feel like he was able to get some confidence back this past weekend. That's a slump. We were talking about this on our show last week. Hey, man, when you're in a slump, you need a slump buster. That's what you need. You need a slump buster. And they had one. And now they get to walk into a game where your starting quarterback was the hero last year. I mean, we've all been athletes. Sometimes, regardless of what's happened in your season, whatever sport you play in, when you know that you have been the hero or the dagger or however you want to word it, and that opponent is next up on the schedule, all the things that you've been going through, all of a sudden find a way to clear your brain. You know, like they're not there anymore. All of a sudden you kind of take yourself back to, well, this is who I was when I played that game, and I'm going to do it again. I got a feeling you're going to see the Lenore Sellers on Saturday against a big-time opponent that a lot of people thought they were going to see throughout the season.
Any changes you make to the offense? The defense seems to be playing really well, and it's going to be a fun matchup. Garrett Riley and Clayton White. And if we're being honest, Clayton White the last 2 years gotten the better of Garrett Riley by about 1 million times. You could honestly make the case. That Clayton White's kind of owned to Garrett Riley. Remember, I know Clemson won. I'm not talking about winning. 2 years ago, Clemson won the game 16-7, but Clemson didn't score an offensive touchdown. So I think the defense of South Carolina against the offense of Clemson is going to be a lot of fun. But would you make any changes?
Well, I appreciate you asking me, like I'm the smart one in the room. But yeah, but it's a small room, Bill. As far as what I know, no, I don't know what you're going to change. I think they've already made those changes. I think they're just trying to continue to work to perfect them. And get to that game this weekend and really execute at the highest level that they. I'm assuming you're asking offensively, right?
Yeah. Because like I said, defensively, yeah. I like the defense. I could come in here on Monday and be wrong. I like the defense against Garrett Riley.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, it's going to be important to tackle. I mean, if you've watched Adam Randall this year, he's gotten better as the year's gone along. When they started the season, I thought, oh my gosh, Clemson doesn't have a running back. How does that happen? But he's a big physical kid, and he will go right through you. Carolina's going to have to be when they get to him, they got to hold on and get into the ground. But offensively, it's really been more about getting your guys in spots where they can be successful. And I think they've done that for the most part the last couple of weeks, and then execute. Make sure that you're executing the things you need to do. And we were going over plays for DeMarco this morning in our little Inside the Playbook segment, and, there wasn't a lot of, big-time flashy plays. Did y'all notice that? They just got into the red zone and did what they needed to do. And, guys, they hadn't been there. You realize they were only offensively in the red zone 8 times during that 5-game stretch they just went through? 8. That's it. So, and they scored, I think, three of the 8 or something like that. I mean, it wasn't very good. They'd only been in the red zone 20 times all year going into the Coastal game. And when they got down there, what did they do? They scored. So, I mean, the execution is really something that was missing. Finish that drive. And if they keep doing that, I think they're going to be fine.
I think one of the biggest benefactors maybe of Furry taking over as OC in these past couple weeks has been Jaden Sellers. Of course, took the opening touchdown to the house, or opening play to the house on the opening score there on Saturday. 8 catches in the past 2 games. Obviously, the touchdown on Saturday when he was used very sparingly early on in the season. And I know that Nick Harbor didn't play this weekend, so that probably factored into it as well. But do you feel like Furry's kind of getting some untapped potential out of Sellers that maybe Mike Shula wasn't able to early on in the season?
Well, I think you're seeing some of these younger guys who, we knew were really talented, Tyler. I mean, I know that Juwan Howell's not a true freshman, but he's a guy who wasn't playing, and all of a sudden the first game that Mike Furry's calling plays, guess who's in there?
Yeah.
Juwan Howell. Now, he should have played more against A&M. He should have played more. I don't think anybody's arguing that point. But I mean, you're seeing some things. I mean, these are guys, I think, with the simplification of some of the stuff that they've done, I think it's been easier for some of these young guys who you know are really talented and you want them to be on the field, for them to be on the field. Like, they can get out there and execute because they're not having to think through everything. Okay, this is my job. This is my task. I will achieve my task. Like, it's not like, oh, crap, what do I do here? So, you know, I do think that some of the personnel and probably some of the changes in whether that's verbiage or however you want to word that, I think that's allowed some of these younger guys to be able to get out there and show folks what type of playmakers they are. And he is a playmaker. He reminds me a lot of when Kenny McKinley was a young kid at South Carolina, just being able to get open and see the field. That's a pretty good omen for the future.
Did we know he was that fast? I know it was Coastal. I know it was Coastal. I just
well, and it's game speed, Bill. Like, it's game speed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he can make a move and go. And there's a lot. Think about how many true freshmen you see that are capable of doing that. It's pretty impressive.
I mean, I just was the run across, and then there was another in particular one he didn't. I think it went for like 10 or 12 yards, but yeah, I was impressed. And that wide receiving group, it's going to be a huge off season for them, because they have some depth and they have some players, and we'll see what happens with Nick Harbor if he elects to return. But between he and Brian Rowe, I think you're still expecting big things from Malik Clark, who got in there a little bit on Saturday, and you're hoping he comes along. Obviously, you've got a few other guys that can step up. Jordan Gidron's a young guy. Donovan Murph had a couple nice catches on Saturday. That's a very, very talented group for whoever the offense coordinator is, for whoever the quarterback is next year to work with. So it's a really good, really positive thing there. When we come back, I do want to get into you a little bit on that offense coordinator situation about Mike Furry, what you think, and if Saturday changed any of your opinions, or if you still kind of believe an outside hire needs to be made. Jamie Bradford joining us on our Monday. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, over 30 years, they've been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. Of course, some of the reasons are that they're there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're ready to help you no matter what, whether it's 12 a.m., 3 a.m., or late in the afternoon. They're ready to help you with a maintenance contract, or if you discover a leak. Of course, one of the reasons is because they're helping you here in Columbia, Florence, Greenville, Aiken, Augusta, wherever it is throughout the Southeast. Mid-State Roofing is there. And, of course, it's because they install bonded and protective systems with a guarantee that makes sure your operation is dry and running long into the future. But again, it's customer service that stands out. Being there for you, making sure that they do the job that you expect of them. So call Mid-State Roofing today, 803-356-1919. One more segment with Jamie Bradford before we turn him loose to his shows and Thanksgiving week. But, Jamie, we've been talking offense coordinator a lot today. This will certainly be for Mike Furry, another game that we kind of overanalyze him and judge his performance and what it could mean for the future and so forth and so on. A good question got brought up earlier, and I'm going to ask you. I think it's irrelevant. Does the offensive coordinator have to be the quarterback's coach? Now, there's a precedent in college football where that's not the case, but obviously South Carolina does have a quarterback coaching position open on the staff. Normally, you'd fill it with an OC, but in this case, Mike Frey would probably stay as wide receivers coach. Does your OC have to be the quarterback's coach?
No.
In your opinion, this is in your opinion, by the way, and what you think.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, Lane Kiffin is basically the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss, right? And Joe Judge is their quarterback's coach. Now, Lane Kiffin has a lot to do with it, obviously, and I understand that. By the way, do you know who the co-offensive coordinator is at Ole Miss? Does anybody know who that is?
Charlie Weiss Jr.
Should be familiar. Alongside Charlie Weiss Jr. Does anybody know who the other guy is who's quote-unquote co-offensive coordinator? Familiar name to South Carolina football.
I'm just going to guess because he was around. I mean, this is Coleman Hutzler?
Joe Cox.
Ah, okay.
How about that? Huh?
Would have been a lot of guesses to get that one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. So I mean, Charlie Weiss Jr. is a quarterback's coach. Joe Judge is a quarterback's coach. Lane Kiffin's a quarterback's coach. I mean, I think it's not like the old days, right, where you had to have a certain number of guys on the field and things like that. Like, you can kind of restructure the way that you want to restructure it. So, does it have to be? No, it doesn't have to be. Now, I mean, a lot of them are. I get it, but I don't think that's a must-have. If you've got the right play caller, you can figure out what to do as far as who's actually the quarterback's coach.
Do you feel pretty safe saying that whether he's the offensive coordinator or not, Furry's still going to be on this team and at least the wide receiver coach role, if not something more expanded next year?
I hope so. I mean, he's really good for this program. I know he loves being here. I mean, keep in mind, if he doesn't get the OC job, I'll bet you there's somebody out there who's taking notice if it all ends well, who's going, well, hey, shoot, maybe we should see if this guy wants to come call plays for us, right? I mean, he's going to have something else on his resume now. I mean, I know the guy wants to be at South Carolina, but he probably also wants to be a head football coach at a higher level one day, and so who knows how that works out. But I sure as heck hope he's here. He is phenomenal.
Well, at some point, I think what he's done with the wide receiver room is impressive. I'm sure he'll go out in this offseason and also try to they do have Sequel Patterson coming in. Now he is reclassifying. So you do have that, and you're not going to ask him to come in, but he's a top-notch athlete out of the upstate that can come in and make an impact pretty early. I think he's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th, 6th, 7th. So 7th best, of course, only 14 commitments. 17th best commitment, a 4-star player, ranked the 12th best wide receiver in the country. I would imagine they'll probably go for one more wide receiver in the portal just because of depth purposes. But what he's turned that group in, because we just named it, Sellers, Rowe is really developing. Again, Donovan Murph is a guy. I give him a lot of credit. I think Nick Harbour still has a ways to go, but I think the improvement from Nick Harbour from last year to this year continues to be very impressive. He's one of the better wide receiver coaches I've seen come through South Carolina in the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, and think about this too, and I agree, 100% agree with you. He might be the best one, to be quite frank, right? But think about this way, okay? As far as Mike's role in Gamecock football next year. All right, so right now, like if you're polling fans, well, what do you think, right? Like you asked me, what do I think? So I would play this game with me for just a second, but we'll get to where we're going. What if I turned around and I asked you, either one of you, Bill, Tyler, tell me the difference in a Mike Furry offense and a John David Baker offense at East Carolina. What's the difference? Well, you don't know, right?
Not off the top of my
Well,
head.
and I also just real quick, I don't want to go down the path, but
Well,
we don't know a full Mike Furry offense, given that basically they were like, hey, here's Mike
Right.
Shula's pile of bleep, fix it. And he's sitting there with all the fake poo-poo on his desk going, all right.
Yeah. You're making my point. That's my point, okay? So, like, if I said, what's the difference in John David Baker's offense at East Carolina and so-and-so's offense at Utah? Describe to me the differences. What system do they run? What do you know about who they are as a play caller, how they design their offenses? Nobody knows. We don't know. We're not football coaches. Nobody knows the answer to that. But they do see results, and they feel like they have an informed opinion. And that's fair. I'm not trying to like throw a bunch of people under the bus. Like, I'm not trying to make fun of fans or something. I don't know either. That's my point. So if you poll the audience on, well, what do you do with this thing? There is a heavy section that says, well, you cannot promote Mike Furry because that didn't work last time. So it's not an indictment on Mike Furry. It's an indictment on Shane Beamer. Those are people who are off the Beamer train and saying, when he does this, it doesn't work. All right? That's where that's coming from. If this move was made after week 2 or week 3 or week 4, and you walk into this game at 8-3 or 7-4, and it's because of the Mike Furry offense, people will be going, I sure as hell hope they promote this guy. Look at what's going on. They're scoring 40 points a game. Why would we not hire this guy? It'd be a totally different narrative. But he didn't get a crack at this thing until they had to go play the third-ranked team on the road, right? And so now, you're looking at a very small sample size to figure out, well, what's the best deal? Some people are just hardline. You have to go hire a proven offensive coordinator, probably a younger guy outside of the University of South Carolina. So it's an indictment on Shane Beamer as to the way that people are looking at Mike Furry. But the reality of it is, we don't know what a Mike Furry offense would look like compared to somebody else's here at the University of South Carolina. We have no earthly idea. And so it's really hard to turn around and tell a bunch of people, pay all this money for their tickets and show up week in and week out and pull for this team through thick and thin and have been doing it for 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years to say, well, just trust Shane Beamer. He'll make the right decision. Well, last time I trusted him, we scored 14 points per game. So it's a very tricky situation, and I don't know what direction they're going to go. All I'm saying is those who are saying hardcore hire this guy versus those who are saying hardcore hire this guy, none of us actually truly know at the end of the day. And there's no way that he's just going to promote from within. Like, Shane Beamer is absolutely doing an extensive search. He knows he's got to get this right. There's no question about that. But if he goes through all of that and he ends up landing back on this guy, then, I don't know that we'll have any choice but to support it and say, well, here's the evidence we had with him. And we're just going to have to wait till the off season and then until next season to see what that looks like. If you ask me today, where do you think it goes? I personally don't think Mike Furry will end up being the offensive coordinator at South Carolina. That's the way I feel about it right now.
Yeah, I agree.
But we could look up in a couple of weeks, and especially you beat Clemson and you put a bunch of points on them. Bill, you and I both know. Tyler, we all know this. We have been on this roller coaster a long time. You go out there and hang 35, 40 points on the Tigers this weekend and beat them soundly inside of your own ballpark, that changes a lot of opinions really quick, and you got to guard against that too.
Well, they put 51 on Coastal, and people today have already started to ask questions and wonder. Jamie, we appreciate it, and man, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Boy, it'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, y'all too, man.
Interesting conversation next week. We might move you to try and get you a full hour or something so we can get to everything that we need to discuss, from offensive coordinators to this, because next week really starts the question and answer session for South Carolina football in 2026. Buddy, have a great Thanksgiving.
No doubt. Happy Thanksgiving to all the fans that are listening to your show out there too. I hope they have a wonderful week with their families, and hopefully they have a wonderful weekend of Gamecock football. Really appreciate everybody.
Always look forward to it. We'll be back and wrap up the show here on the Monday afternoon. It is the Halftime Show. I don't know if y'all brought this up. I just stumbled across some recruiting news. We were talking about running backs earlier. This is off of Gamecock Central. Kevin Miller posted it, but I know that Chris and Wes are always heavily involved in this. And I guess this is some big news. Current Florida running back commitment. Carson Baker, 4-star prospect out of the state of Georgia. This was a guy that South Carolina was actually involved with early on. He is from Fairburn, Georgia, Langston Hughes High School. Ended up committing to the Gators over Florida State, Texas A&M, and Southern Cal, and South Carolina, but mainly the three that I just mentioned there. Well, obviously, he's looking around.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to take an official visit to South Carolina this coming weekend for the South Carolina-Clemson game, and it is the distinction that is an official visit is important. This is actually according to Chad Simmons of Rivals. South Carolina will host Carson Baker. I believe it's Carson. We were talking off air. Carson is how he says his name. Carson Baker for his final official visit. It says the Florida commitment had previously scheduled a return trip to Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that game, by the way, and we'll get to it later, is being played in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium this week.
Yeah, but it counts as a Tech home game. So I would imagine they're allowed to have recruits.
They get to do what they want with that.
Yeah, but you know that game's on Friday. Clemson or Carolina Clemson's on Saturday. So I don't know. Should I grab my tinfoil hat?
I told you off air, I said this is the time of the year where we track planes and we do stuff. And if you just want to be conspiracy theory guy, you're kind of like, did he talk to Georgia? Did he talk to Buster Faulkner? And Faulkner was like, hey, why don't you go check out South Carolina again and just know that maybe I'd be seeing you there right after signing. I mean, the stupid conspiracy stuff. But I've been around recruiting.
It's not the most insane thought.
No,
it's not. You know what I mean? There have been crazier things to have happened.
Well, if you don't believe, part of it is go watch that tailgate talks with Steven Garcia and G.A. Mangus and Pat. There's stuff I didn't know in there, and I know all three of them. And I never went deep. I've never gone deep with Garcia on some stuff, but I just FYI on some recruiting news. And we talked earlier about South Carolina needing running backs. That is something, portal or whatever. But Carson Baker, 4-star running back out of the state of Georgia, has already been to Georgia Tech. He was expected to go back this week. He will now, according to Chad Simmons of Rivals.com, I guess Rivals and On3 are now the same stuff, will make an official visit to South Carolina. Remember, signing day is next week.
Yes.
And I told Tyler off air, we're kind of talking about the rest of the week. And obviously, this will be an easy week because we'll get more into the Clemson game. Shane Beamer will speak tomorrow, and we'll hear what he's got to say. Then we'll get into Wednesday and a lot of turkey talk and getting set up. And then Friday, obviously, will be game talk. So it'll be a nice, easy week. But you got to get a lot of stuff now done in what is an exceptionally short, closed window.
Yeah, you do. Now, listen, the college football calendar is all kinds of screwed up. They've shifted some things around, but yeah, and it's not because you want to be a part of a bowl game, but I guess it is a benefit that you're not having to deal with the bowl game and juggle all this stuff too, or you can kind of singly focus on some of these things in the month of December compared to some other schools. I don't know if that gives
not a good thing, by the way, that you're focusing on that at all.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's not a great thing, but that is something to be said about the way the calendar works now, so we'll see.
Just keep an eye on that. Obviously, South Carolina losing Amari Thomas, but there's not a rush to replace him. It's not like, and quite frankly, given that you've already got, if you hold on to him, you've got two guys and a third in Augustif,
yeah.
A third in him. The rush to replace him is not like massive. You could just wait it out to the transfer portal and take a fourth guy and you're perfectly fine.
Sure.
There's some people now that would say I'd rather take a transfer portal than a high school guy if the high school guy can't make an impact his freshman year.
You want somebody to come in and produce right
Especially
away.
For a season where you better have guys that can make an impact.
Exactly. No, you can't wait and hope.
So just something to take a look at. According to Chad Simmons, South Carolina, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Kentucky have emerged as a potential landing spots. Florida remains a contender as well. A lot of basketball on this afternoon.
Yeah,
I love this time of year.
Yeah, I got the Players Era Championship in Vegas. Got a lot of things going on, the Maui Invitational, so some options to watch.
And if that's not enough for you, no MAC action tonight, no MAC action. But NFL, we didn't get into NFL discussion, but you do have Monday Night Football tonight. Panthers play on Monday Night Football at the 49ers. We'll see. There you go. Good answer.